Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gospel of Comics, the Sunday edition. With me, I'm your host, Church of Failure. With me today, as always, is the trusty co-host, Ayrton McCartney. How you doing today, man?
Just poured a double. How are you?
I mean, I'm in the same boat with you. We've been experiencing technical issues for Skype connection. I have no idea if any of you are even able to hear us right now.
We'll
Becky,
see. Do you want me to mute myself and pull up the stream?
I mean, if you mute yourself and pull up the stream, are you going to unmute yourself? Because that kind of kills the deal for me.
I will unmute myself, but just to see if we're coming through.
I mean, then no, I don't want you to tease me with muting yourself and then unmuting. If you're gone, just be gone. Becky in the chat says she can hear us, so we must be doing something right some fucking how.
It's gonna be a fun one.
It is. Tonight, very casual, impromptu show. May not go the full 2 hours. Just really depends on where we go. Just wanted to take a trip down memory lane and look through the back issues of our hell, not even our youth, but some of the older comics that a lot of people never really had a chance to read. Oh, Becky, you didn't offer. What am I supposed to do? I don't read. I'm not a psychic. I don't read minds. Anyway, today we're going to be looking at two vintage comics, Silver Age-ish on both of them. That would be the Brave and the Bold, number 28, Volume 1, and Fantastic Four, Volume 1, Annual number 3, The Wedding of Reed Richards and Sue Storm.
Now, before we get started,
right?
This segment is give them the name because.
Oh yes, it's in the title. This is Tales from the Back Issue Bin, brought to you by Scotch. This evening,
so, what are you drinking tonight?
This evening, I'm finishing off my bottle of Glenlivet Nadura. It is delicious, and I'm going to be sad when it's gone, but it will more than likely be gone before the end of the evening. No, and you would have to be drinking Scotch to be on this show, Becky.
Yeah, I picked up a bottle of Macallan 12-year double cask. This stuff's good.
I'll have to give that a try. I've not been let down by the Glenlivet yet, though, so it's slowly but surely working its way into my heart as a fantastic Scotch.
It is a good one.
Anyway, we have a couple of other things that we might delve into, talking about superhero team ups and just a general all around discussion of old comics and the two specifically that we picked. I pulled a 28-page story from the annual that was like 76 pages. We're not going to go through the whole thing because, well, that's just a lot.
And neither of us read the whole thing.
Well, I've read the whole thing before, just not recently.
Well, for the show.
Yeah. But, I mean, like I said, if you have any questions or anything, drop them in the chat. I'll try and keep an eye on that as we go. Have any comments or anything like that, let us know. I'm going to try and spend the next couple of weeks learning a little bit more about OBS so that I can set up some kind of feature where people can call in and ask questions or jump in on a discussion topic or something like that, possibly in the future.
Oh, that's getting technical.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out how to make Discord not hate me. And I mean that's but if we can figure it out, that might be something interesting to do, just to at least have set up.
That would be fun.
Especially before it becomes a situation where you're not able to manage everyone.
Yeah.
But in any event, if there's no questions or anything like that, I think we probably should go ahead and jump into it. Oh, come on.
Dive head first.
Are you shitting me?
What's it doing now?
Oh, I'm just boomering this up. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, I there we go. And one and two. Okay, we still set up. Yeah. Okay, we're good. Uh,
See, I want to emphasize real quick, folks. This episode is brought to you by Scotch.
it is brought to you by Scotch and Boomer technical issues. So it's got all of that going for it in one fell swoop. So, um, before we even get into the story, one thing that I love about looking back on these old comics is all the old ads. I'm actually gonna
Oh yeah.
at the end of the story, I want to go through and just kind of look at some of the old ads that you used to get in comic books, and hell, that may take us for the duration of the show. But first one we're going to be looking at is DC's The Brave and the Bold, Volume 1, Number 28, the introduction of the Justice League of America. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first appearance of the Justice League as a team. All of the characters had previously existed, obviously in their own stories, and they had been teaming up in The Brave and the Bold for some years and other titles. But if my if my research is solid, I do believe this is the first appearance of the Justice League as a team. Uh,
I'm gonna go with you on that because I'm pretty sure that's correct. But you know way more about that than I do.
let's pull up the old reliable wiki here. Fictional superhero. Yep. First appeared together as the Justice League of America in The Brave and the Bold, number 28, March 1960. So this was 25 years after 23 years after the creation of Superman and Batman, and we had already been through two Green Lanterns at this point because Hal Jordan was the Green Lantern of canon at the time instead of fuck what's his, I can tell you any other day of the week.
Alan Scott.
Alan Scott. I kept wanting to say Barry Allen, knowing that was wrong, but Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, The Flash, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman made up the original the original Silver Age Justice League. You had the Justice Society of America pre-existing in the Golden Age with the gray tipped Superman, where he had the gray tips in his hair, the original Batman, uh, Wonder Woman in our continuity's mother, Wonder Woman. Um, you had Jay Garrick as the Flash, Alan Scott as Green Lantern, and then Aquaman. I don't know if Martian Manhunter was in the Justice Society. I don't even know if Aquaman was. To be honest with you, something I'll have to do a little digging into. All right, so you picked this. So you wanna start
Yes.
off by talking about it, or you want to actually let's go over a couple of things on the cover before we do that.
Yeah. Because the well, I knew about the story and I knew the premise of it, but I hadn't read it before, and I've only seen the cover, and that's what made me want to read this.
Well, you we had talked briefly about Starro before we started the show, but Starro is actually a kind of a big deal in Justice League lore. Anytime you see the origin of the Justice League, Starro is mentioned, even if the situation changed over and over and over again. In a later origin story, you see he does basically the same thing, but the little starfish that he creates don't grow ginormous. What they do is they wrap onto faces of people and control them. Very strange.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So also look at that 10-cent price tag. Can you imagine?
It's beautiful.
Um, the layout of the comic is just entirely different. Like the title of the book is The Brave and the Bold. but you see the Justice League of America get center billing. Um, the prime real estate of the cover. It prominently shows the basically the premise of the issue, Starro the Conqueror. Um, and you notice that Superman and Batman aren't on the cover, even though it's shipped as Justice League of America. Now they are in the book briefly, but they're not involved in the initial conflict, which I found interesting. I think maybe to show that they weren't needed for the Justice League to succeed.
Yeah, I do like the excuses that they gave for not showing up.
Yeah. Super. We'll get to that. I actually kind of have a joke about that. We'll get there. Also, the last thing I want to point out, and we've talked about this off air a little bit, and Becky, if she's still in the chat, will remember that I talked with Jesse and her about the Comic Code Authority coming into place in the 40s after the seduction of the innocent and the government actually creating a committee to look into comic books, the destruction of EC Comics. That's probably a topic we'll bring up on this show at a later point. But that Comic Code Authority tag in the corner is it's a piece of history. You don't see that
Yeah,
anymore because the Comic Code has essentially been dissolved. But you'll notice that anytime you see that you're gonna not see certain things like out and out violence and stuff like that. Um, the bad guys are never gonna win in a comic book with the Comic Code Authority symbol on it. And that'll be kind of predominantly displayed in this comic.
and the wonderful quaintness of the 60s, or well, I guess technically late 50s,
Well, this is
since it came.
1959, 1960.
Yeah,
Anyway, let's stop rambling on and get into this. So, does it really matter where we go? I think I've got the screen share up so you can kind of tell me.
yeah, I can. Well,
Uh, Go ahead.
so yeah, well, first, you still have that ad for the muscle power up for people to see,
Yeah, I'll pull
because
that
that is
back up.
because that is wonderful. I just wanted to say that real
Oh
quick.
yeah, Mickey Mantle, uh, Yogi Berra, Bob Cousy, and Joe Lewis all promoting this 10-cent muscle power product. I mean, you saw stuff like this in comic books all the time. Um, like I said, we'll go
X-ray
through.
specs.
Oh yeah, we'll go through the ads.
J- yeah, just because you had it up, I just wanted to point it out how wonderful it is.
Yeah,
But
let's just go ahead and jump. Yeah, there we go. So
yeah,
the first couple of pages really set the story up, and you'll notice just with the artwork itself how much more detailed a lot of this artwork was back then in comparison to what it is now. Even when they didn't have amazing techniques to do coloring with, like you'll see certain points in this because it's a scan comic. You'll see certain points in it where the colors don't quite overlap correctly, so you don't get the right shades in certain places. But even in that, like they put so much effort into the artwork of these comics, and
oh
it
yeah,
it it wasn't digital like it is today. So
and not like washed out backgrounds and stuff like that to make it easier.
right, no.
Like,
Um, but these were printed in a time when you had what they called four color printing, and that was when you had to blend four different colors to make every color you needed on a page. So that's why you have such garish costumes. Like Superman's always in red and blue, and bad guys are typically green or purple. Um, like Starro, for example, is purple. You had to use colors that you knew you could pull out of a page. Um, Black always had a highlight of blue
right.
instead of gray. it's just certain nuances you see in older comics that you don't have to worry about with digital coloring. Um, it's just something that makes these books feel real special. But you're gonna have to make me shut up. Go ahead and tell the people about the book.
Yeah. So, well, it opens with a dramatic introduction to the Justice League that's wonderfully cheesy. But then we cut to Aquaman doing his daily patrol, I believe it says.
Yeah, yeah,
I can only see the images. I can't really read the text easily on the screen share.
yeah. It's not like you don't have the books on your
Um,
iPad. You know.
well, I want to follow along what you have pulled up.
Well, just go with it. We'll
It's
meet in the middle if we have to. I got to
all
respond
right.
to the chat here.
Okay. So so Aquaman's going and a pufferfish comes up to him and basically says like, "Hey man, a giant starfish from outer space just crashed landed in the ocean last night. You should
Well,
probably do something about it."
I like how they got really like they just really went into the exposition and explained they saw the something like they saw the alien while they were inflated hanging upside down, and then there's a little factoid beneath the panel that tells you how that works.
Yeah, that part was pretty great. And then so we find out his name is Starro, and he selects 3 Earth starfish to imbue with his power to be his uh,
Minions,
minions, basically, to to go out and help him conquer the world.
right? Just no
So
reason,
yeah,
no forethought.
it just feels like it.
Yeah. And these
And then
starfish obviously
Aquaman.
are distant
Oh yeah,
relatives of his.
well of course, because why wouldn't they be?
So yeah, Aquaman sends out his crotch signal to summon the rest
Yes.
of the Justice League, and it couldn't have come in at an easier time for Wonder Woman, who's trying to push off Steve Trevor's toxic masculinity. Um, he doesn't want to tie her up. That's a little callback for anybody that saw the Wonder Woman episode. He wasn't down with tying Wonder Woman up, so she's just like, I got to get out of here in my invisible jet, which sounds like a
Which she calls it a robot jet.
right.
I didn't know that's what it was originally called.
Yeah, the '60s were weird, man. But then you switch up to Superman, and I am of the belief that this is where Mundane Matt got the idea when he was exposed for flagging people. He was out collecting boulders like Superman's out stopping meteors. So maybe this is just what the artist drew, but I think Superman was out there flagging the Justice League on their social media. He was sending nasty letters about them to their congressman because that's how you flag people
Right.
back then.
You know, or the FBI and suspected them of being communist sympathizers.
Right. Green Lantern, he gets a signal and he's flying a plane and he's like, I'll just put it on
Uh,
autopilot. It'll be fine for 24
well, no,
hours.
he doesn't even say that. He says he's going to use his ring willpower to just make it keep flying.
Yeah, that's just essentially what he does. He puts it on autopilot.
Yes, but it's not just like a switch. Like he uses his ring to will it to keep going, which I love that concept.
Well, yeah. I mean,
It's such a
isn't
ridiculous
that
use of the power ring.
isn't that how you set your cruise control with your Green Lantern ring?
No, but I'm gonna rewire it so it's gonna have a little cutout where you have to like push it in with a Green Lantern ring to engage it.
Right. Um, well, just kind of keeping with the 6 page rule that I try and keep. We're gonna pull up one more shot of the meetup of these guys, and John Jones is just getting a little piece of vacation, and apparently he gets a signal, and he's like very excited that he gets to work through his vacation. So obviously that proves that he's an alien and not an American. You know, Flash is like, let me take care of this tornado and I'll be right there. Batman's like, nah, I'm busy. I gotta hit the club.
and it takes Barry 3 panels to figure out that if he runs in the opposite direction of the tornado, it will stop it.
Well, and let's just take a minute here. And I want to read this one panel. A tornado is a violent rotary storm a few hundred yards wide with winds up to 500 miles an hour. The winds revolve spherically upward to counterclockwise direction. So all I have to do is run counter.
Oh yeah, I love it.
So sorry about that, guys. I just the older the comic, the more cheesy it is, the better it is.
Exactly. I I totally avow that statement.
Um, that isn't what he does with it. What are you talking about,
Huh?
Becky?
Oh,
Becky's yeah. I
I
don't
can't see the chat.
uh,
Sorry.
Becky. I don't know what she's talking about. I'm a little concerned. What's going on, cartoon?
Uh,
See, I know that's cartoon, even though you can't read his fucking username. But anyway, no, they all assemble at the Hall of Justice, and it's pointed out that the Flash is in charge when Superman and Batman aren't there, which I found
which
interesting.
yeah, I thought that was weird too. And also, it's pointed out that it's highly futuristic.
That is correct.
Isn't that how it's described?
Yes. The five members of the Justice League gather in the modernistically outfitted cavern.
Or modernistically? Sorry.
Right. So, but again, they all converge and decide to split up to take on the menace that is Starro. And obviously they've got to tackle the three minions before they go after the original because it wouldn't make sense that going after the original would neutralize the three minions.
Right.
Um,
Why would you even conceive of such a thing?
the comics, man. I mean, they're weird. Um, but as a penance of the time, you have an interlude to this comic, and then we jump right back into the action. So the interlude
It's fun to help others.
it's fun
Sorry.
to help others with Superboy.
I laughed so hard when I read that.
Right. And how about the cat with green hair back in the 60s? I mean, let's talk about progressive.
Right.
But, Superboy stops in to give a moral one-page lesson. And this is stuff you got in comics all the time after the comic code came through. They wanted to push the idea that, superheroes were your icons and your models. And when people, get offended that people in like the Comicsgate movement and all of that, we want to go back to a wholesome time like this. I don't see why that's such a bad thing. But
Right.
whatever. Now, what did you think about breaking down the fights into four different sections of comic book?
I actually kind of like that. It
Really?
was made it much easier to follow than some of like these bigger stories where it jumps back and forth a lot,
Right.
and then you're especially if you're reading it quickly, like I did today.
Right.
It made it easy to follow,
Yeah, I'll give you
and
that.
it was kind of nice because it just kind of flowed. Like, okay, Green Lantern did this,
Mhm.
next bit Wonder Woman and John Jones did this, Flash did this.
And then they all got back
You know,
together and did this because Aquaman was
yeah.
Aquaman was standing by watching.
Which I also laughed about that.
He had the most important job of all. Look out.
Yeah. yeah, Flash is like, okay, you do this, you guys do this, I'm gonna do this. Aquaman, just go swim,
Yeah. So
go
yeah,
take a dip.
yeah, just go relax, buddy. We got this. We don't need any communications with fish right now. So
Yeah,
now one thing that I do appreciate is that at the introduction to some of these stories, if you might not be familiar with this character, like it back in these days, every comic book was somebody's first comic book. So you had the potential to pick this up because the Flash was on the cover and never have read a Green Lantern comic.
right.
So they take you through everybody's nickel tour origin. On this page, you get the mantra of Green Lantern and kind of a little bit of a backstory to him and what he's doing right now. So what some companies now will take an entire issue to do, they do in a panel or a splash page. And I've always kind of appreciated that because as much as it's annoying to read about the origin of the Green Lantern through one of DC's legacy prints where they print hundreds of comic books in an omnibus, it's nice to know that every time they printed a comic book like this, that they were opening the fans up to being able to attach themselves to this character, even if they'd never seen them before. You don't
Yeah,
get it today.
making sure they knew who it was. Yeah,
Right. And, giving you the sales pitch of why you should be interested in that. I think that's the bigger thing.
oh yeah.
But, Barry Allen, or not Barry Allen, Jesus Christ, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, intercepts the first Starro, and the thing has gotten so massive that it attaches itself to a plane, and takes the plane out, and steals an atom bomb from the plane. Because for some reason this alien starfish just happened to know that there was an atom bomb on the fucking plane.
Maybe he could like detect background radiation coming off of it or something.
Okay? So why wouldn't he go for a nuclear repository instead of the singular atom bomb on this plane?
I didn't
Yeah.
say it made sense. I was just saying how
And
he
and
knew it was there.
let me just posit this to you. How the fuck did Aquaman know where these assholes were going? Who slipped him their fucking their day book? Who let him look in Starro's calendar? Oh yes, I'm gonna send these 3 minions that I just created to these 3 places across the globe that Aquaman will obviously know where they are. The fuck?
But well, even if he had like fish spies out there watching,
Yeah,
how is a fish going to know what the Rocky Mountains are?
right. Maybe there's a stream where some fucking little minnows populate. I don't know. They don't tell you that in the panels. But again, with the as much exposition as you get, sometimes you just have to leave it to your what is it?
Headcanon?
No, your
Is it?
God damn it. There's a word for it, and I can't think of it at the moment. Your suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
Becky was mentioning the Green Lantern ring, by the way.
Yeah.
But Green Lantern
Yeah.
fights the Starro with that is trying to steal an atom bomb. Does steal and detonates the atom bomb, and then absorbs all of the power before being just, I don't know, having the power hit back onto him.
Yeah, yeah, I still don't really know what happened
Yeah.
in this bit.
So,
It's
that's,
like, okay.
and then we immediately switch to the end of that and the beginning of Wonder Woman and John
Well,
Jones.
Well, and it just shrinks back down to a regular starfish
Right, right. And
for some reason.
again, we have the same kind of
Anyways,
brief introduction of Wonder Woman and John Jones. They don't give as much of a talk about who these people are because you got it in the introduction page, whereas you didn't with Hal Jordan. Um,
yeah.
but they talk about giant alien starfish to steal an entire building and
Who's
fly away with it.
who who somehow knows there's an entire building of scientists.
Not just scientists. It's a building of science.
And what was the name of the city again? Wasn't it
Oh,
Science City?
yes, the sky above Science City, where the Hall of Science is. But again, um, you're introduced to Martian Manhunter's weakness to fire because there's a fire in the building, and that's explained in his origin. The entire surface of Mars burned, and that's where he gets his psychological weakness to fire. Otherwise, Martian Manhunter's pound for pound just as good as Superman. Um, Wonder Woman is used to or uses the jet to I don't even know. Like it's just the entire the entire story is just so amazing. Essentially, what happens is they lasso it and brace onto a building, and Wonder Woman deflects beams at it until John Jones gets the
Well,
bright idea. Go ahead.
not just deflects beams, deflects nuclear
Energy
beams with
beams,
her
yes, with her
bracelet.
bracelets, right? And John Jones uses a sheet of lead that the roof happens to be lined with. But before that, he diverts some small particle meteors that Superman's been breaking in the atmosphere to attack the Starro clone, I guess. But after being hit with its own nuclear beams, it too is defeated, and they lower the Hall of Science in the middle of the desert, and
And
that's
peace out.
right. I mean, this building's just here now. This actually
the
go ahead.
the desert of science
Right,
now
right.
is what it will be called.
So this actually brings me to an interesting point that not a lot of people know about. In DC, they have in DC and Marvel both actually they have companies that are designated to clean up the destruction that happens because of superheroes. Um, and the reason that these places, I guess, exist. Let's see. I think Damage Control is Marvel.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know DC's.
yeah, Marvel Comics, and then DC. DC has
I really hope it's something wonderfully cheesy like Science City.
uh, for some reason, I'm being routed to a show called Powerless. NBC Powerless did a yeah, I guess that's what it is. That's not interesting. Um, but Damage Control is a much better name.
Oh yeah,
I've got to say, but apparently, but DC has industries set aside to do that as well, and I've always thought that was kind of an interesting archetype of just yeah, we actually do have ways to deal with this. Um, the building's not just going to stay there. The first time I really remember seeing Damage Control was in the Second Secret Wars when the Beyonder turned the Heroes for Hire headquarters into a sheet of solid gold or a building of solid gold.
Huh.
Yeah, and the weight of the building caused it to start collapsing in on itself. But after they make short work of the starfish, we have another short introduction or educational page that teaches you all
Which
about
was actually,
all about the different breeds of starfish.
and it was kind of cool. I kind of like that that's in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Like,
mean, I have no problem with it
why isn't this a thing anymore?
because comic books aren't. They don't give a shit anymore. Like back in the day,
Apparently,
they were trying to stay on the shelves. Today, they just assume they will be because of movies.
yeah, I guess.
But that leaves us with one starfish decoy that's not taken care of yet. Let's check in on the Flash and see how he's doing, and let's actually meet a new honorary member of the Justice League that no one has ever heard of.
Oh, this was awesome.
So
Brace yourselves, everybody. This
right,
is the best character. I want him to have his own solo movie
right.
or ongoing TV series on the CW,
Why
like
not
whatever.
both? Why
Like,
not both?
let's do both and have two different actors to play the character in the movie and the TV show.
And then they meet in a crossover.
Yes, exactly.
Uh, anyway, the Flash keys in on the starfish in Happy Harbor. Um, and let's just take a moment and talk about some of the nicknames that they gave these characters, like the Emerald Sentinel and the Scarlet Speedster. I mean, these are just so sensational. Um,
Oh, it's amazing.
and you can tell you can tell that the people doing this loved what they were doing so much. Um, they wanted to make it fun. They wanted to make it entertaining. They wanted it to sell 1 million copies because back in the 50s, you could sell 1 million copies of a comic book. It was not unheard of.
Right, especially being 10 cents.
Well, I mean, 10 cents back then would still be like $1.50 today. So Alterna's pretty much on point for pricing with inflation.
Yeah, but I'm right. But if everyone was following that model, it would be so much easier for them to sell 1 million copies today. $1.50 is nothing to
No, I
spend
mean
on a comic book.
people don't read anymore. Magazine sales are in the shitter. Comic sales are in the shitter. People don't read
Yeah,
anymore. People are lazy. They'd rather watch it on TV. It's sad, but it's true.
yeah.
But anyway, let's meet the honorary JLA member, Snapper Carr. He was out spreading lie in the front yard, talking his jive hip talk. They even called him a young hipster. Um, back before that word was derogatory, I
It was
think.
still derogatory back then.
But this was the cool cat. Had all the snarky lingo, but
Talking his jive ass shit.
yeah. Let's see if we can find a direct quote from Snapper Carr. I'll tell him. Let's see. Man, this grass mat is the coolest. Wait till Daddy O casts his orbs on it. Orbs, I assume, mean eyes.
That makes me think of the scene in Airplane.
Dig that crazy
Where the
pinwheel. What bit is playing in this spectacular? And apparently people talked like this back then.
I don't think they did.
I don't know, man. I've heard ratchet come out of someone's mouth recently as a as a descriptive pronoun. Um,
Yeah, I know it's a thing. I'm not sure I know what it means though.
well, I can't say that people didn't talk like this if I know that people talk like Ratchet.
True.
But I think the Flash is pretty much the one that just dispels the starfish the quickest. He just basically
Well, yeah,
run. He just
he's the fastest man alive.
Yeah, I think he just runs it to death, essentially.
Well, it's better than that. He runs around a lake, stomping his feet super fast to agitate the water and lift it up, and then smash the starfish with water.
Right, right. He runs it to death. um, but it's all and all of this has happened in 28 pages. Like we're not even quite done with the comic yet because we still have the main star to to encounter. Um, now, keeping in mind that only one of these became a regular starfish again, so they're like husk of giant alien starfish still in two places.
Yes, in Science Desert and in this random lake.
Right. So then apparently the Flash, as chairman of the Justice League, decides that Schnapper Carr was a great asset to to the dispelling of Starro's clone. That he's got to
Well,
go ahead.
you're missing a bit there.
Okay.
The starfish mind controls all of Happy
I,
Harbor.
I'm just not seeing the connection.
Well, we'll get to it.
Oh,
We'll get to the
will
connection, folks.
will we? Because
I didn't
I've
say it's a
read the.
good
Okay,
connection.
I was gonna say I've read these. Well, go ahead. You tell the people how the Justice League defeats the Star.
Well, first, Starro reads Hal Jordan's mind and discovers that the ring doesn't work on anything yellow and somehow makes itself yellow.
Yes, yes. Without any explanation, it also is a chameleon starfish and can make its entire body
Oh,
yellow.
and then so the fight's not going good. You know, it looks like they might lose, but remember the stamp on the cover, you know.
Well, I
So
mean, it didn't. The
they're gonna
comic code
figure it
didn't.
out.
The comic code didn't say aliens couldn't win, just criminals.
Okay, fair fair enough. But anyways, so somehow the Flash figures out that its weakness is the lime fertilizer that Snapper had been putting on his lawn,
And
and that's
his
why he could
his
not be mind controlled.
well, his revelation came because he decided that because he was a forensic detective, that he should be able to figure this out, puzzle it out. He should be able to do. So he goes and he's like, "Well, why can't he control you?" And he's like, "Well, I was putting lime down in the front yard. That was apparently the solution."
So they Green Lantern somehow there's a warehouse close enough that's filled with barrels of lime to where they're fighting Starro. So
Right,
Green Lantern pulls all those over,
right, and it just begins to dump lime on everything.
and then Martian Manhunter uses his super breath to blow it all over Starro, and then he dies. I guess.
No, he becomes a Starro statue. And
Right.
that's good enough for the Justice League. They're like, we'll never have to deal with this when he escapes. This is no longer a problem at all. We don't need to figure out the origins of this guy or anything.
uh, now, what do you think the readers back in 1960 thought when they read this book?
I think they thought it was amazing. I
That's
think that
amazing.
I think they had a Jesse Lee Peterson. I think they thought it was fantastic because I thought it was fantastic. Even
True.
even reading
I
it in
loved it.
yeah, even reading it in 2019, it's a complete story. It's contained in one issue. There's lots of action. Everything is pretty well explained. I mean, you can get into semantics like I did for
Well,
jokes. You can get into semantics like I did for jokes, but at the same time, I mean, they laid out the plot very well, I think.
they did.
Um, now, I don't think it was as good as The Wedding of Sue Storm and Reed Richards that we'll be looking at next, but I think it was fantastic, especially considering this is 1960 and that book's what 68, I think.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Uh,
But no, overall, I love this.
yeah, no,
If
it was fantastic.
just everything about it was just, and I might like this one a little bit better than Fantastic Four just because of how ridiculous it is.
That
If
one's
my history
ridiculous
of the
too.
things I liked,
That one's ridiculous
true,
too.
but
Well, different reasons.
it
It's a
is,
little more
yeah,
cohesive.
different kind. Yeah, if my history on the things that I really like on this show could tell you anything,
Yeah,
I think
you
I
don't
like
like
this one a little bit more.
yeah you don't like good comics. That's your problem. Well, let's do a little. Wait, huh? It doesn't talk about the writer for this. Let me look up the writer.
Okay, but while you do that, like the reason I like the ridiculousness of this, and we'll get to Fantastic Four when he's done googling,
I got it. I got it. I
is
got it. But yeah, go ahead.
uh, is well the fact that Aquaman is just told to go swim in the ocean while they handle the
Yeah,
action.
go take a dip.
It's
We got this. Go talk to
it's
some
a
fish.
giant Batman doesn't feel like showing up because he's busy.
Yeah,
It's a
super
giant
super.
starfish from outer space somewhere.
Yeah, Superman didn't see the starfish coming in from outer space, but he's out there punching boulders.
and and the Flash runs one of them to death. I mean,
Yes,
that how is that not a combination for an amazing story?
right. And it's 20 something pages, including ads.
Yeah, including ads.
There's
Now,
no
if
unnecessary
this would have
exposition.
been if this would have been the Justice League movie, I would have loved it.
Yeah.
No bullshit. I want this Justice League movie. I want the horribly animated
Now
Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern.
let's puzzle this out. Uh, Bat Ben Affleck is Batman at the time. Gets a call from Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and he gets a call on his cell phone, and he's like, "What? A giant starfish? Piss off!" and hangs up on him. And that's the last you see of Batman in the movie.
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
Superman just in
And
outer
I'm sure
space punching
Ben Affleck
boulders.
would have
I'm busy.
Ben Affleck would have even wanted that. He hated playing Batman, from what I've seen.
Piss
Yeah,
off.
maybe like every 45 minutes, just cut back to Superman just punching the asteroids for like 30 seconds, then cut back to what's happening back on Earth.
Yeah, until Martian Manhunter has to divert the asteroids, and it all comes together, man.
Exactly, exactly. But I want TV Flash, and I want Ryan Reynolds horrible CGI Hal Jordan.
And I want Linda Carter as Wonder Woman. All right.
If they make that movie, I guarantee it will beat Avengers Endgame.
Oh yeah,
Guarantee it.
absolutely. Uh, writers for this issue,
All right. Anyways, go ahead.
writers for this issue, Gardner Fox. Pencilers, Mike Sekowinski and Bernard Sachs, Joe Gilla, and Murphy Anderson on inks. Um, Julia Swartz as editor, and Gaspar Saladino for letters. Um, I will say the letters were actually very good in this book for it being an older book. Lettering wasn't
Yeah.
as well, as much of an art form as it is now. Then um, we should go ahead and go through the ads. Let's see here. We've already seen the first ad, but we'll pull it back up. This is just kind of a go through.
Yeah. Oh, I totally forgot to mention that Barry Allen has Hal Jordan scan Snapper with his ring to figure out where he is on the emotional spectrum, which was also hilarious.
Yeah, but I think that's more hilarious because of the jokes we make about spectrums.
Well, yeah, but it was still great,
So I've got some of the ads
dude.
up on
I
screen
want a
now.
I want a pair of space shoes.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because that's definitely something that goes. 100 toy soldiers for $1 each, or $1, packed in a Foot Locker. Give me 1 second.
Frontier. Oh, that's like one of those like indoor like play tent things. Okay.
Yep, yep. I believe it's
What?
probably made of cardboard.
Yeah, probably because it's $1 a piece or 5 for
That's
$4.
right. That's right. Frontier cabin, big enough for 2 or 3 kids. And all of this shit's mail in. Like you just mail in your money or whatever to these addresses and probably never get what's being offered. Um, let's see here. What else is there? The high powered binoculars and the Civil War soldiers. Charles Atlas's book. There's your blue and your gray Civil War soldiers. 150 for $1.49. Two complete armies, the blues and the grays, each piece of molded plastic, each in its own base measuring up to 4 inches. High powered
Oh, it's
binoculars.
fantastic.
See up to 18 miles. 50 cents.
Ma-
Uh,
Man, eBay is disappointing me. They do not have space shoes on here. And if you think I'm joking, I am not.
Look for moon boots.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
there's
anyways.
uh, Charles Atlas's Big Free book. Uh, just the ads in these old comics just make me smile. I really want to like send them all in, and I know I'll never get anything from any of them, but I really just want to see if any of these companies will honor any of this shit anymore.
No, moon boots isn't working either.
Oh no.
I'm
Uh,
a,
let's see. Win a big prize. There's one. Let's see what else we got. Anything else? Nope, that's it. So, yeah, let's see. Last one. Win a big prize. Can you name the 6 foreign countries these pictures stand for? Looks like this looks like racist. What is that? China, the Dutch, India,
I I
Egypt,
can't see it well enough on screen
Mexico,
share, unfortunately.
and the French. Yeah, yeah. Spain.
Holy shit! All right, hold on. I'm sending you over a link.
Oh, did you find the space shoes?
I I found the motherfucking space shoes,
Shit.
except they're called something different
Where'd you find them?
on Etsy.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's a reputable source right there. That's where I buy all
Hey,
my
I just go
my NASA
I I
equipment.
I I googled space shoes 9. I don't know if it can. Oh wait, hold on. I can't send it to you that way. All right, yeah.
Send it to me on where are you sending it? Twitter or
Well,
Skype?
I'm on my phone, so I'm gonna have to send it to my iPad and then send it over to you.
You're the worst.
Well,
You are the absolute worst.
it'll just take me one more second.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe. There we go. Hey, at least I know how to even send it from my phone to my iPad. Just be happy I know how to do that, all right?
I don't have to be happy about anything regarding you. Thank you.
Fair enough. I get that. I'll post it here in the Skype chat just because
All
it's
right,
here.
that's fine.
Okay, there's the link.
All right, that'll work. Let me get set up for that. There we go. Let's see what the fuck you just found. Satellite jump
looks just like
shoes.
looks just like the ad, doesn't it?
Oh my god, it does. Copy link. What the hell? No.
Not a bad price either.
Fuck you, Chrome. Get off. Go away. We're doing it live, folks. I know this is entertaining as hell.
It'll be worth it when he pulls the link up and you guys get to see this in its glory.
Alright, there
Now,
we go.
this is going to have to be a thing every time we are reading these vintage comics. I'm going to have to try and see if I can find any of the ridiculous stuff in these ads.
I'm down with that. I'm actually okay with that as an idea. Yep. Rapco satellite jump shoes. Like walking in space. Now, let's just take a moment and think about the fact that back in 1960, they were only $2. Like new, original box, it's going to be $56.95.
Which I thought they would be more expensive.
What? It's two
If I
springs on a
if I found
plastic base.
well, how many of these do you think are really still around? I thought
Look at
it'd
that.
be like $100.
Look at those rubber stoppers
I
screwed into the bottom. There's only one of these in stock. God, I'd hope
if I
so.
had an extra 50, if I had an extra $57, I would order these
Man, look at the size of
just
them.
for the
They won't even
novelty.
fit your feet. You would die.
I would try and use them, and then I would just set them on the shelf so when people come over, they'd be like, "What the hell are those?"
That was the
And I'd
worst.
be like,
You ever
"Listen."
you ever seen a worse idea than the pogo stick? Well, now you have.
Be like,
Jesus
listen, let me
Christ.
tell you a story. I'd sit down in my recliner, light my pipe, be like, all right, buckle up, buckaroo.
That's right. All right. Let's get rid of that. You gotta find me some of the toy ads, man. So what I decided to pick came from an annual in 1965, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby special. 72-page annual. We're not going through the whole thing, just the first story. The Wedding of Sue Storm and Reed Richards, featuring the world's mo-
Everybody.
most colossal collection of costumed characters crazily cavatting and capering in continual combat. This is the big one. Eat your heart out, V for Vendetta. Uh, Now, again, 1965, 72 pages, 25 cents. This was more than triple the size of a standard comic at the time. So,
That
eh,
and just another thing I want to point out that I wish they would do with these with modern comics is the alliteration and stuff.
right. That was a Stan Lee thing. But this is kind of hailed as the first superhero team up in history. You had, I mean, this was main not team up, I guess would be the word, but your first major event comic with crossover,
Like yeah,
like
crossover.
right. So, I mean, just on the cover, you see the Avengers, the X Men, Quicksilver, who I believe was an Avenger, Doctor Doom, Nick Fury and the Commandos, Super Skrull, the Thinker and his robot Gargoyle, Namor the Submariner, even though he's not in this issue or this particular issue. You got Spider Man. He's in the issue, but not in that story. You know, the Thing, the Hulk, who's also not in that story. But aside from those two characters, Namor and the Hulk, which we'll talk about why they're not there because that's another big deal with these. Again, you've got the Comic Code Authority logo. Different stamp. I want to point out. Let's see if I can pull this up. I'm gonna. I want to compare the two covers real quick. We'll do that later.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Comic Code Authority stamp is a little different, but also you'll see at the bottom big banner, two most requested Fantastic Four issues since #1, complete and unabridged. #6 featuring the Submariner teamed up with Doctor Doom, which actually led to a storied lineup of comics, supervillain team up with Doctor Doom and Submariner. And issue 11, A Visit with the Fantastic Four, and The Impossible Man. So I didn't really read those two today. We may talk about the first couple of issues of Volume 1 of the Fantastic Four at a later date if anybody's interested in that.
Which
Again, go
would
ahead.
be fun because I do like the Impossible Man.
The 3D Man is where my heart's at with weird superheroes.
Yeah, I just like how he just annoys everybody
Yeah,
until they yell at him to piss off, and then he gets, and then he just leaves.
yeah. The
Or at
3D.
least that seems.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that seems to be every interaction with him and the various heroes.
Right. Um, Now, this is for me is so just reminiscent of what '60s comics were. Um, you'll excuse me if I get a little sentimental on this, but this is Kirby art extraordinaire. I mean, it's just fantastic. The square fingers that he was famous for, the little fine detailing in all of Doctor Doom's armor and the folds of his cloak. Um, the backgrounds with full detail in them. Stan Lee's wordy but flowing writing. Um, since it's actually written here, we'll go ahead and cover this. Written by Stan Lee, drawn by Jack Kirby, inked by Vince Coletta, lettered by Artie Simek, and edited or catered. That they catered by the Bullpen Gang. Um, Fabulous FF holds a long-awaited wedding, only to find Bedlam at the Baxter Building. So Doctor Doom is such a petty motherfucker that he decides that because Mr. Fantastic has defeated him, that he's got to fuck up Reed Richards' wedding by creating a device to summon all of the evil, like evil people, all the bad guys, the villains, and making
It's
them
basically
attack
a device that just makes them more pissed off,
at the
right?
Fantastic Four specifically.
Yeah, specifically.
Yes, I wasn't gonna do anything today, but I'm gonna go shit on the Fantastic Four because reasons.
Yeah, well, because the Mandarin shows up, and he was never really a villain for them, was he?
No, he was an Iron Man villain.
Yeah, I knew he was primarily Iron Man. I didn't know if he had really any major interaction with the Fantastic Four.
They all crossed over at certain points in history. There was actually a mini series where Doctor Doom and other villains kind of developed a plan where they would all trade heroes to fight to outsmart them. Because
Oh,
they were all used to fighting their own heroes. So,
right.
but we open up at the Baxter Building where everybody in town is basically gathered for the wedding, and almost immediately you get I think it's the Thinker actually is the first no, the Puppet Master in the audience, but it just goes on and on. You get the Puppet Master, the Red Ghost, and his apes who were mentioned in the I think it was the Ant Man and the Wasp movie, the Ghost. Um,
Oh, yeah.
the Mole Man drills up through the that's something I will pull up. The Mole Man drills up through the floor of the Baxter Building, only to be encountered by Professor X and the X Men.
Which I think was probably my favorite out of like the how they defeat the various villains.
Yeah, well, the X Men
Mostly just
just
because you have you. Well, it's the classic X Men in the super goofy bright blue and yellow uniforms.
absolutely. I mean, what else would you expect in 1965? The X Men were barely just
Yeah,
created.
yeah, and the way they defeat them is just great.
Yeah, 100%. Like you can't, you just can't. They just beat them up.
Yeah, and and then Iceman makes an ice cork to seal them away.
Yeah, but it'll push them down as it melts. I like how he had to explain that. But yeah, Mole Man just like, oh, he's an invalid. He can't hurt us. And he's like, I'm just gonna telepathically summon the X Men to fuck your day up. So, and this is pretty much the speed of the entire issue. I mean, you've got
Oh
you've
yeah, it
got
moves really fast.
yeah, you've got the X Men, the Avengers, Doctor Strange, every hero and every villain, Kang the Conqueror. Like I literally can't show the whole thing. Uh, they even have to like lightning round it, where they show Black Knight, Kang, the Thinker, and Gargoyle all showing up around the same time. Thor and Super Skrull get after one another. Daredevil diverts another like giant bomb that's on the way to the wedding. This that we can show that because that actually plays into the end of the issue.
Yeah, yeah, we have to show that one.
Um, but all of these heroes and villains just keep showing up and pulling in the reserves for one another. You don't see the Red Skull because I believe he's still in cryogenic suspension. But you get Spider-Man and Electro, and obviously the full Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Thor. Um,
Doctor Strange.
yeah, we that Doctor Strange, Quicksilver. Uh, it's it's a veritable who's who of everyone. The story's not really that much more complicated, other than Sue Storm and Reed Richards are getting married, and because Doctor Doom is such a petty little piece of shit, he's just like, nah, fuck this. Um, I'm gonna make their day terrible, and nobody can stop me. Na 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 na. Except every hero in the world is in attendance to this wedding. And like I said, there are a few exceptions. Like you don't see Black Panther, Luke Cage, or anybody like that. I'm not even sure they were fully created yet. But pretty much every major Stan and Jack creation
Yeah.
is present in these pages, and it's fantastic. Um, Now, eventually, the bad guys do regroup and start to overrun the good guys. So, out of nowhere, the Watcher just pops in and he's like, "Hey, yo, dog, you know how I can't get involved, right?" And Reed Richards like, "Yeah." Well, the Watcher's like,
I'm gonna get
"Well,"
involved.
he's like, "No, no, I'm not getting involved. But as a wedding present, you can come to my house and you can take something." Um, so we'll skip to that here. First, I want to show where that thing Daredevil was piloting. He eventually just crashes it into Atuma and Atuma's army, creating a vacuum to get them the hell out of the way. And that's when the Watcher shows up and travels with Reed Richards through the fourth dimension, as depicted in this photograph. It's like, first off, let me see that fucking camera. Like, dog. I gotta see that fourth dimensional camera. But
Well, that and
yeah,
I figured it was just one of Jack Kirby's drug trips, and he was able to somehow figure out how to take a picture of it.
instead of taking the easy way out with a simple exaggerated drawing, we now present the published photo of a journey through the fourth dimension for the benefit of the science buffs among you. Excelsior! I added the Excelsior, but you can literally read it in Stan's voice. Um, I just want to see that fucking camera. Like, how'd you go through the fourth dimension, dog? We're come on, man. That's bullshit. Yeah. Anyway, the Watcher takes
See, I don't think Stanley actually died. He just went home to his own dimension.
the fourth dimension. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I will co-sign and ship that all day.
All right.
So
You heard it here first, folks.
so then we get to the end of the story. I know I kind of breezed through this one a lot faster than Ayrton did, but this one flowed a lot faster. It was literally just new bad guy shows up, new good guys jump out to beat them up, new bad guy shows up, new good guys jump out to beat them up. Hey, did you know that this guy was in the comic? What about this guy? Everybody's in the comic. So Reed Richards takes a device that is not explained, and the Watcher is just like, I can't tell you what it does. That's interfering. What you do, I can't stop you because that's interfering. Uh-huh, uh-huh. So Reed Richard takes a device, and apparently it is the best MacGuffin I have ever seen in my life. But it just sends
It
all the
is.
bad guys back in time to wherever they were doing before they decided to attack the Fantastic Four. And it also erased the memory of wanting to attack the Fantastic Four from Doctor Doom, whose entire drive as a character is his hatred for Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four. So I'm not really sure if they just killed Doctor Doom right there or what just happened. But comics. So the wedding takes place. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish it. We can talk
Yeah.
about it after.
So the wedding takes place, and Reed and Sue finally are married. And then Nick Fury notified of two gentlemen making a scene trying to get in. And it's revealed that it's Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And they say, well, we'll get back at them. We'll go and write the next issue. Um, Now, one thing I want to talk on before we get into a discussion about it is this issue does something that I've always loved in comics, just like I was talking about in The Brave and the Bold, um, where it mentions where certain beams were meant for, like, the Incredible Hulk because of his, nobody knows what side he's going to be on when he shows up mad. Or the Submariner, who's obviously always had a problem with Reed Richards because he loves Sue Storm. They weren't in this issue, but they were in Astonishing Tales number 72. And this book made note of that. So if you wanted to know what those characters were doing while this was happening, you can go get that comic and read it next. So it's something I've always kind of appreciated in these older books is that they try and lead you
Yeah,
to other comics. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
What were you talking about?
Well, I had another thought. So the not very good Rise of the Silver Surfer movie where they do the wedding, they do a nod to the ending of this where Stan Lee tries at one of his cameos. He tries to get into the wedding and is not allowed. Just wanted to mention that real quick.
Oh, because I've
Uh,
never watched that
but
atrocity.
yes, that is a thing. He tries to get in. They're like, "No, you're not on the list." He's like, "But I'm Stan Lee," and then they push him away.
Nice.
But I just want to just talk about the Watcher for a second,
Yeah, let's do that.
because the Watcher from Earth has to be like the worst employee ever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I'm
he,
not supposed to get
he
involved.
has one he has one job and he doesn't do it right, but he doesn't do it right in such a legalistic way that it just pisses off the rest of them, and
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. Well, I'm not going to interfere per se, but if you stole something from me, I couldn't really interfere with that either. Um, there's a mini series from Marvel that we need to cover at some point. I know we need to get some DC in here for some of our watchers. I think Gulf City Cult of Krill has requested some DC, so we're
Yeah.
gonna at some point I want to cover something like Batman Court of Owls. That was a good one. I enjoyed it. Or we could look at the Dark Knight Returns, but that's a big chunk of reading.
I'd like to go back and check out some Alan Scott Green Lantern stories because I haven't really read any of those.
Um, yeah, those are good. There's one where all three like there are a couple of stories where they try and wrap the canon together that are pretty good.
Yeah,
We'll talk after the show about some resources that I have that I pull story ideas and whatnot from.
yeah.
Um, just remind me because I'm 2 drinks in and about to pour a third. But
But yeah, I just wanted to point out that I love how the Watcher is. He's
well,
basically a little shit.
and it's one of my favorite Marvel storylines. It involves Machine Man,
Okay,
Nick Fury, a lot of espionage. Oh, are we opening
nice.
our corks next to our microphones? Is that what we're doing to?
It was not next to the microphone. I was holding it away. Apparently, it was loud. It was louder than I expected.
Ah, I see. Um, no, I really enjoyed. I liked the story a little more. Um, I think because of just the craziness of and the repetitiveness of it, how quickly it just kind of got into the constant fights and how ridiculous some of the pairings were. Um, how you knew nothing bad was going to happen, but you didn't know how they were going to manage it. Spider-Man coming out of nowhere. Uh,
Spider-Man out of fucking nowhere.
yeah, the blatant call out to start keeping an eye on how many different Marvel characters you recognized. 1 second.
Yeah, and no, this was definitely a great story. I just love the campiness of the Justice League. It was just so campy and cheesy.
It was. It wasn't bad. Um, I I enjoyed them both. Like I said, I just think this flowed a little better. I think that it just didn't break as often, and for me, it kept me immersed a little more. Uh, as much more,
I'll give you that.
as much wordier as much wordier, as many more words as this seemed to have, it seemed to read quicker because it didn't break as often. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
I can see where you're coming from with that. Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. It's just
Plus, I don't think the
just
dialogue felt
that
as
can't that
forced either. And that's part of the appeal of a campy comic is the dialogue feeling kind of forced in that regard. But still, I think
yeah.
it's a little disconnecting.
Well, and I love the over explaining like thought bubbles from the characters when they're working out how they're gonna solve the problem. Like that kind
Right.
of stuff I've always enjoyed of these older comics. And the Justice League one was like that turned up to like 11 compared to what I've read in the past of like older comic books.
Oh
So I
yeah, dude.
really enjoyed that.
Oh yeah.
I love both of these. I just the enjoyment factor that I got from the Justice League one was just a little bit more than this one.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. Um, like I said, I think more or less they were pretty much on par with one another. But
Yeah.
I think that in the grand scheme, um, it was a little easier for me to read through Fantastic Four, and it stuck with me a little better. I think that wasn't a bad thing necessarily. I think that both books have their merit and have their place. I like both of them. I just think that it was a little more fun. I think lighthearted in the Fantastic Four one as opposed to the Justice League, which was trying to take itself seriously and just failing miserably.
Which again is one of the things I liked about it
Right.
so
No, no,
much.
absolutely. And I think even back then, I mean, they were great stories. It was definitely something people would want to read.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I just
like I said, the movie adaptation in my head would play out exactly
and now
like a B horror movie.
what if we got the guy that plays Jay Garrick on the new CW Flash, the one that played the original Sci-Fi Flash?
Ah, I could dig that.
You know, just get old versions of all of these characters. It wouldn't be too hard to cast like an old guy to be old Hal Jordan. I don't know.
True.
I don't know. I think, and we should get Roger Corman in on this.
Get
He's obviously really good at superhero movies.
Seeing we'd have to get Christopher Reeve to play Superman. We'd have to get
Christopher Reeve's dead,
uh,
man.
I don't I don't care. That's besides the point. We're gonna get him to play Superman.
could get Christopher Reeve's hologram to play Superman. He's just punching
Exactly.
boulders.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ, we're going to hell.
We we can just take old clips of him flying in the movie and just in the old movies and just superimpose it in space and him just flying through like CGI meteors and then blowing up. See,
Right.
it can work.
Yeah.
George Clooney to play Batman.
But I mean, all in all, no, Michael Keaton, Michael Keaton or nothing.
All right, all right.
Uh, I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter. Is Adam West still alive? It doesn't matter to you if they're alive or not.
It's a good point. Might have to do Adam West with the '60s suit.
Absolutely.
None of this modern bullshit with like the armor and stuff. No, just gray and blackish blue spandex.
No, we get him the modern suit, and that's the reason he can't show up to fight Starro. Because he's playing with his new suit.
Or because he can't move in the new suit.
I locked up the suit. I can't seem to move. Is that more of a William Shatner?
No. Now we just have to figure out who would be a good director. M. Night Shyamalan. We'll get him to direct
Absolutely.
it.
I want to see that twist, baby. But yeah, you can see the minor differences in the comic code stamp. The way they're, the way they're laid out based on the year. Um, this is back when DC was still National Comics. Um, and they just headlined the fact that they had Superman and Detective Comics in their logo. That's where DC comes from.
Yeah.
Marvel used to be called
Now,
Timely.
now, when in the timeline, like how close are we to Stan Lee giving the Comics Code Authority the finger?
That was 70s or 80s, I believe. So,
Oh, okay.
um, let's see. We can look that up. Got a few minutes. Uh,
Yeah.
Stanley.
No, I hope you're searching it word for word like that.
No, I'm not. I don't use
Oh.
Google, so it probably won't come up if I do that.
Fair enough. I'm going to put in that exact Google search and see what happens.
1971.
Okay, so we're not too far off.
Spider-Man number 96. Let's see if I have a copy of that to pull up. I'll see if I can pull up a copy of 95 and 96. That'll be a good comparison, so to speak. That way, 95 should have the stamp. We'll talk while I do this, so I'm not.
Sorry, I was searching up that exact search, and yeah, it doesn't give an exact.
I already found the information. 96.
I know, but I know, but I just wanted to see what would pop up if I searched that exactly.
I hate you so much.
All right, while you're pulling that up, I did read news article, if you will. I guess it's like a National Geographic or something about the Titanic. They discovered that after the Titanic sank, the pool was still filled.
Huh. Think you're funny, do you? Think you're cute.
Come on. I got to get one of these in at least once a weekend. And I didn't do one yesterday. So.
Wasn't you showing up a bad joke? See, that's how you make a bad joke.
All right. I'll give it to you.
All right, there we go. 1971, 15-cent comic still, people. Just keep an eye on that. 15-cent comics. The Amazing Spider-Man 95 with the seal, The Amazing Spider-Man 96 without the seal. Um, the reason was because the guy on the cover of 96 had been using drugs. Stan Lee was approached by the Anti-Drug Council and said, "Hey, we want you to include in the story how drugs are bad." Okay, and Stan Lee was like, "That sounds Excelsior." But the Comics Code was like, "You can't do that shit." And Stan Lee was like, "I'm Stan Lee. I do what I like." And they put the comic out without the seal. The first time in over 20 years, I think. Now, the seal
Yeah.
lived
Now,
on, but it began to lose power at this point, really, is what most
yeah.
people will.
Now, really, did anything really happen to him for putting the comic out without the seal?
Fuck no.
like the
It was a great
like
thing.
the like the seal didn't really mean anything,
Well,
quote unquote. Like it just
there were some Puritan shops, I'm sure, that wouldn't have carried it. There are some distributors, I think, that were worried about it. It made it very valuable as a collector's item,
oh, I'm sure.
but um,
But like Marvel Comics didn't get like a stupid fine or like anything like that for doing it. Like they could have done it
so what if
15
they
years
did?
earlier.
So what if they did? I mean, I think they did get a
True.
fine, but so what if they did?
Oh, okay.
The money they made back in sales more than paid for that fine, and the
True.
free advertising they got for disobeying the Comic Code Authority.
That's a good point.
I mean, it was a different time back then. Like the they didn't like Stanley understood that if he was promoting the use of drugs, that they wouldn't sign off on it. But when he was lambasting the use of drugs and expressing the dangers of them to educate people, he didn't
Yeah.
understand why that was a bad thing. And I've always kind of agreed with him on that. Like, go Stan.
Oh yeah. I mean, Stanley's a national treasure. His birthday should be celebrated like, President's Day and stuff like that.
You're not wrong. But yeah.
Change.org petition right there.
um, just for anybody watching, basically, Stanley gave the Comic Code Authority the finger. Um, they would not give the seal of approval, but that didn't really cost anybody anything. Yeah, there was a 3-issue story, and wait, was it? Yeah, Archie Comics publisher John L. Goldwater. Hmm. Wonder what kind of name Goldwater is.
I
Hmm.
thought you were going to say Goldstein for a second, but
Decided not to grant Marvel's 3-issue drug abuse story in The Amazing Spider Man the governing body seal. So if Lee, then Marvel's editor in chief, wanted to go through with the short series about Harry Osborn's abuse of LSD and Peter Parker's efforts to help him, he would have to do it alone, and so he did. Marvel published The Amazing Spider Man issues 96 through 98 without the Comic Code Authority seal, thereby ignoring the comic code altogether in order to tell what it thought was a good story. That would click with modern readers.
yeah,
In
he
the
he
19
basically said he basically said to them, "I'll kick your ass. I'll kick his ass. Fuck it. I'll kick my own ass. I'm
In a
doing it."
1998 interview, Lee explained his reasoning for bucking the Comic Code Authority and publishing the 3 issues without the coveted seal. I
Was
never
his
thought about the
explanation they're cucks?
basically. I never thought about the code when I was writing a story because I basically never wanted to do anything that was too violent or too sexy. I was aware of what young people were reading these books, and I had not been And had there not been a code, I don't think I would have done the stories any differently. He was right because readers bought the issues in droves, making Spidey's latest fight with the Green Goblin one of the character's most popular stories ever. So yeah, but that's uh that's the story of Stan Lee telling the Comic Code Authority to go fuck itself.
Which go Stan.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that he is a national treasure.
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, I mean that's Tales from the Back issue bins. There are plenty of other back issues that I eventually want to get to reading that I haven't read yet, or that I have read but I want to read again and talk about in depth. Um, I don't know about you.
Oh yeah, there's so many these older stories that I would love to dive into more of.
Maybe next time we'll pick some independent comics and read through them.
Maybe some of those old like Western comics from like the
Oh yeah,
like early turn of the century. That
oh
that
yeah,
could be
the
fun
the
if we can
quote
find
unquote
some.
platinum. We can talk about that real quick before we get off the air.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we might have mentioned it briefly last night, but we're contemplating doing a little bit of a series on talking about the different ages in comics. Platinum
We
age.
talked about this off air.
Well, I think we might have mentioned it, maybe even teased to it, and not actually brought it up. But we're
Maybe.
thinking about.
Maybe.
You didn't have to interrupt me, like Jesus Christ. I'm just fucking with you.
That's my isn't it my job to interrupt you?
I don't know. I don't pay you still, so
True.
um, I mean, I don't know why you keep showing up. I've been withholding your paycheck for 2 months now. I tell you you were
you
fired
know,
every episode, but I feel sorry for you and let you on the call.
I'm like herpes. I just kind of show up whenever I feel like
Can't get rid of that shit. It's like luggage and
it.
herpes.
No. Yeah, exactly.
But we're thinking about doing a series on the ages of comics and just talking about, or at least diving into the discussion about the different ages of comics, what kind of comics were prevalent during those times, who were the big players, what sold well. Talk, look at some of the titles and go through them. Read what we can stomach out of them. We're open to any suggestions. Um, you don't have to know the specific age of the comic. If you know the comic or the storyline, we can narrow it down and figure out where to slip it in. But otherwise, we'll just wing it like we always do. But it's going to take a little bit of time and preparation, and we'll probably do one show per age, maybe, or we may
Yeah.
do a show for the age and a show for and maybe go into the transition at the end of that age. I don't know. We'll figure out how to structure it out, but if that's something that interests you, let us know. If not, we'll do it anyway. Um, I don't know. I was always told that if you were going to do YouTube stuff and podcast stuff, do something you enjoy. So
Right.
sounds like I
I
would
mean,
enjoy it. If we didn't enjoy something, we stopped doing it. So. But I'll also, in that time frame, be looking over some stuff to kind of integrate and make OBS a little more interesting, so it's not just a still image in the background. Um, Open to some ideas there. I don't really know what I'll do, but we'll see. We'll see what I can work out um,
yeah, we'll figure it out eventually.
one day. But I think that about covers it for this week. thank you guys for joining us again. If you're watching the replay, thank you very much. If you are not subscribed, subscribe. If you are, we appreciate it. Hit us up on Twitter. All of our contact info is in the description down below. And leave suggestions or criticisms in the comments or on Twitter. More than happy to go over them. Thanks.
We,
Oh, go ahead.
we might ridicule you if you make a typo or use grammar incorrectly on Twitter at us, but we'll still take into consideration what you say.
I'll fire Ayrton for doing that to you. Even give you a shout out on air. He might do that. I'm a good person. I think
Okay.
sometimes.
Well,
But anyway, thanks again, guys. I
just
really appreciate it.
use Grammarly on your tweets before you at me, and it's an easy way to avoid it.
Ayrton's really trying to get fired this episode, but I'm not going to give him the satisfaction. I appreciate it again this week, man. I'll talk to you after the outro plays.
Fun as always.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Say it.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm playing the outro and the intro as the same tro. Don't at me.
Some avant-garde shit going on right there.
That's right. And we'll see you next week, guys. Thanks again. And we